joining me on Homo Politicals today. It's Enterprise Television. Kingsley Bass is my name. It's been exactly 3 years after the tragic massacre that claimed over 40 lives at St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State. And the memorial structure erected to honor the slain worshippers has been reduced to rubble. The demolition, sanctioned by the state government under Governor Lucky Edatiwa, has reawakened national grief, ignited fierce public outrage, and sparked an emotional debate that blends politics, culture, and memory. Now, while government sources cite cultural and traditional concerns raised by the palace and community members as the reason for the demolition, critics say that this particular move disrespects the memory of the victims, dishonors the communal pain, and reflects a deeper political undercurrent. Now, the tension now lies at the crossroads of tradition and remembrance as Nigerians seek answers. And the big question, though, is was the demolition justified or a symbolic erasure of collective grief? Let's get talking. I'm joined today virtually by the chairman, Ondo Redemption Front, Ayodeji Ologun. He joins me, as mentioned, virtually. Many thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate that. Let's get down to the conversation. Let me get your thoughts on what has since been, what has since generated controversy across the country. Many have talked about the balance or balancing respect for cultural traditions with the preservation of national memory, especially in matters like this. Are you there, please?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, Ayodeji, I said, let me get your thought on this. Let me get your thought on this, Ayodeji. How do we balance respect for traditional, rather cultural traditions with the preservation of national memory, especially in the face of a tragedy of such magnitude, over 40 persons losing their lives some 3 years ago?
Well, I don't think it will be sensible for anyone to attempt to justify the erroneous decision by the incumbent governor of Ondo State to demolish that monument. Look, that is not just a structure. It is a closure to some individuals and families about the loss of their dear ones. And when you talk about closure, it comes for people in different ways. 3 years is not long enough for a family not to grieve over the tragic loss of their loved ones who was in the worship place to worship their God. So one would ask, the justification the state government is trying to give and trying to buy the palace into it is not commonsensical. 3 years ago when that incident happened, the whole nation was blown into grief, especially by the nature of the incident, massacre within the chapel, massacre at the altar. And then the former governor decided to put up a monument to remember these individuals and to let their family know that the government cares by putting up that structure and their names on it, which was to serve as a closure of a sort to families and individuals that lost loved ones. I'm very sure, and that belief is further fueled by the statement credited to the former chief press secretary to the former governor, that at the time that the former governor of the state decided to erect that monument, there was a meeting between the government team and very important stakeholders of our community, including the king and chiefs. He mentioned names specifically of those who represented the government side and those who represented our community, and that there was no dissenting voice as at the time that decision was taken to have that monument erected within the palace, because according to them, that was the closest proximity to the center where that massacre took place. So that structure was put in place, with names of those murdered clearly written on it. And for once, the family felt some measure of closure. And then 3 years after, a new governor, who is supposed to be a loyalist of the former governor, or someone who benefited immensely from the goodwill of the of the former governor.
He was deputy governor at the time.
Who also does to have an Owo indigene. And who has an Owo indigene as a deputy, decided to erase that structure, that memory, that landmark, giving free service. For me, it is political. If you claim it is cultural or it has some things to do with tradition, the question would be, has the tradition of Owo changed? Has the king changed? Has the chiefs of that town changed? The same people who sat in conference with the government team in 3 years ago to take a decision to erase that there in memory of those who died. How can they turn around 3 years after to say that there is a tradition or there is a culture that structure is impending? For me, it simply smells of political vindictiveness. And I would not have thought that would come from a Lucky Aiyedatiwa who enjoyed the grace of God and the benevolence of the former governor. And then the question would be, you are removing that structure for what in particular? And I read the statement of the state government that stated that they wanted to put a more economic project in that place. When you put an economic project in place,
yes,
it is for the benefit of the people supposedly.
Yeah.
And I tell you, where is the place of the people in all this? Why do you wake up a sleeping dog? People who have struggled to forget the loss of their dear ones, you brought back this memory by squabbles about
difficult piecing your thoughts together now. Okay, so again, network situation there, difficult piecing your thoughts together, but you did speak about, and in your terms, political vindictiveness, something in that light. I'd like to get your thought on that. What exactly does the governor stand to gain in doing this? What exactly does the governor stand to gain? Remember, too, and I was trying to draw your attention to that he was deputy governor at the time this incident happened, and he must have been part of the process to make this happen. So what does it stand to gain if you say that this is politically motivated?
Serious quarrels between the present governor and the family of late Rotimi Akeredolu SAN. It has not, of course, it's not hidden. It's there in clear eyesight. Everybody knows that there is a deep-seated animosity between the Akeredolu family and the incumbent governor of the state. And even while God has been merciful to a Lucky Aiyedatiwa, and he became acting governor and subsequently elected governor, one would have thought that beyond paying lip service to his loyalty to his former boss, he would have made an attempt at closing the gulf between himself and the family of the late Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. Aiyedatiwa has failed to do that. And you would, as much as people call the wife that she's standing tall, defending the legacies of her husband. And one of the legacies of her husband is this monument we are talking about. What does a Lucky Aiyedatiwa have to gain by demolishing that structure? To what end? And to what benefit? Do not forget that the money used, millions of naira or tens of millions of naira, used in constructing that monument in memory of those who lost their life in the Owo massacre, was not the money of late Governor Akeredolu as a person. It came from the covers of the state. 3 years down the line, a new governor is coming to demolish it at another cost. Don't forget that demolition does not come at free cost. It will cost some money. Now, the state's finances was used in building that monument. You are using the state resources to demolish it. Whatever he intends to put in place there would also be used, will also be done by the finances of the state. What happens if tomorrow someone that is succeeding Lucky Aiyedatiwa happens to be from the tendency of the Akeredolu, or is a lover of the Akeredolu family, or is also having a fallout with the governor by then? That means he will also come, demolish that structure with the taxpayers' money, and thinking of putting, look, all of this smells to the fact that these people don't respect us as a people. And I'm talking about politicians, not just about Lucky Aiyedatiwa, but across board. They have no respect for us as citizens. In which meeting, in which state council meeting, did the decision to demolish that structure discussed? Who approved of it apart from the governor? So you think because you are governor, whatever you think is good is what you have to do? This is one of the insensitivities of those that are in the corridors of powers, whereby they take erroneous decisions, sometimes, if not most of the time, counterproductive, at the expense of the people. Because in all of this, the people are at loss. Those who lost their loved ones, we have the memory of those lost ones reawakening. Then the finance of the state is being used for less important things at the expense of issues like health, works, infrastructure, and even education. It's quite worrisome.
Deji, the palace seem to, have played a part in this. Also talking about the dispute, there are talks about the disputes as regards the ownership of that property where the memorial site or the cenotaph was situated. What do you know, or what can you say about that as well? The role the palace is playing in the grand scheme.
The palace is a Confucianist in this matter. And I did say that at my opening speech, that the same palace or the same our community, represented by the king who was on seat at that time, who is still the king now, and a number of high chiefs of that community, as listed by the CPS to the former governor, agreed to the building of that structure at the place it is located. So how come they are speaking with the two sides of their mouth now? They are now talking about ownership. I know what all of this is about, because if you've been to that center, there is a path at the back of the palace, close to that monument, that leads to another property that belongs solely to the Akeredolu family, which is where late Akeredolu himself was buried. So, what is the ownership? Does document lie? That portion of the land is a matter of going, of course, the present incumbent governor can get that at the tip of his hand. It's a matter of asking the Ministry of Lands to give you a record of who in the real sense owns that portion of land where the monument is built. Is it the Akeredolu family? Is it the government, or the community, or the palace? So what is the argument about ownership all about? But all of this breeds of insensitivity, because it's like opening a wound that has healed. And that is avoidable, especially when it comes at a cost to the purse of the government.
Well, let's talk about the implications of destroying, this state-funded memorial, the implication on public trust, on communal healing. You've talked about communal healing, the revival of a memory that the bereaved want to lose. They are trying to leave this behind. They are trying to move forward. And that maybe even when they pass through that site, they will remember seeing, maybe in close proximity, the names of their loved ones who lost their lives or their life during that massacre boldly there, and they want to continue to move on and just live their lives. But with this now, what implications do you think this destruction, this demolition will do on them, on public trust on the part of the state government, and indeed healing for the people of our war?
Look, you've asked two questions, and I love it. Number one, this kind of decisions or this kind of move has been seen by Lucky Aiyedatiwa as the governor of Ondo State is an attempt to further erode the confidence of the citizens and those who are in government. Because as an Ondo State person, I'm telling you now that I know for a fact that my tax payment, money that belongs to me and other citizens of the state, was what Akeredolu used to build that monument. 3 years after, another governor is coming to use state resources to demolish that same project and then most likely put up another project that will be at the expense of the finances of the state again. So as a citizen, I'm beginning to think, why do you have to waste my resources, especially when there are other important things that are not being attended to? Health care in Ondo State is at its lowest ebb. Go and check the rating of Ondo State in the recent WAEC and NECO results. You will see how far behind we've gone. So which means there's lack of investment in education. What happens to uncompleted projects of the former administration and money? The state finance, the resources of the state to attend to all these things, including insecurity that is becoming a daily thing.
Wow.
In Ondo State, you could not use finances of the state to attend to this issue. What could have been left is the application of it to the people. A couple of times on my way to and fro or passing through, you will see families of the bereaved, those who lost their life in that attack. Don't forget that that attack was so brutal that some families could not even have the dead body of their loved ones to bury. So the only consolation they have is the name of their loved ones being listed on that epitaph. So most of them, or some of them, on the birthday of those ones who lost their life, since there was no burial site to take flowers to, many of them take flower to that epitaph in memory of their loved ones. I've seen that happen. Now you have demolished it. To where should they take flowers to honor their loved ones? Some of them are already forgetting that incident. But with this now, you are reawakening it, you are opening up their wounds, and you are making them to cry, avoidably as a government. I think the duty of government is to ensure that the lives of the people are made better, and that smiles is put on the face of citizens. But when you see a government who derives pleasure in making citizens of the state to cry, then you should know that that a government is a devilish one.
Deji, to close, I wouldn't like to, get really political with this, but the gubernatorial election happens soon, right? Again, we're talking about the memories of persons who simply went to church to worship and lost their lives. No crime committed, nothing. And even when a crime is committed, we know what the law says. They should have their day in court. But these persons went to church on a Sunday morning and that they were met with gunshots. Many lost their lives. Over 40 lost their lives, and some others injured. I'm wondering to what those persons who survived have to say to the state government, now, the incumbent state governor now. But again, I was going somewhere with the political side. I wouldn't like to get political, but again, the election is soon. Do you think this could be a deciding factor? Something that could make the people turn their backs, if they were in support massively of the governor before now, turn their backs, especially the people about war, turn their backs on the governor as the elections approach?
Well, everybody writes their history day by day. Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa is writing his own history day by day as the governor of Ondo State. We are talking about late Rotimi Akeredolu now, and we can remember him for the things he did. So when Lucky will also cease to be governor, he will be remembered for the things he did and the things he failed to do. But I can tell you that the people do not forget. When it is time for the next election, these are some of the issues that not just the opposition would raise, but the people will ask themselves, what is the benefit accruable to them under Rotimi Akeredolu? What is the benefit accruable to them and the pains brought upon them by a Lucky Ayedatiwa? And they will be the one to decide which side of the pendulum to swing. But I can tell you that this might not be the major deciding factor about what becomes of Lucky Ayedatiwa in the next election, whether I contest or he does not contest does not matter because of what the interpretation of the law that is yet to be made. But I can tell you that the people of Owo will have this as one incident that will determine to what side the pendulum of their votes will swing. It will be a very major factor.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. He spent what, some 2 years now. He became governor, substantive governor in 2023, and so we'll see how that goes. Really, most importantly, the conversation has been about the memory of about 40 persons who lost their lives some 3 years ago, and that right there is the focus. And we hope, really do hope, that those who lost relatives, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, grandparents in that. I remember very well covering the story and speaking with a foster son of one of the disease who spoke with me about the pain that came with that. In any case, Outrage Ologun, we'd like to thank you so much for joining the conversation today. It's quite an emotional, event, war on those states. As you mentioned, we want to see smiles on the faces of citizens and not pain and grief and reminder of pains and memories that they want to leave behind. But I'd just like to get your final thoughts in just some 60 seconds as we go on this matter. You did mention, so I saw your press release recently about education in the state and why the state government there's a need for the state government to employ teachers as well. Just maybe wrap that within your final, just put that in your final thought as we close.
Yeah, one of the things that Lucky Ayedatiwa did when he became governor was to employ teachers. And like you rightly said, I issued a press statement and I foretelled the process because there's what is called needs assessment. Needs assessment was not properly done in the recruitment of teachers in Ondo State. And that is because you needed to do a needs assessment. How much more teacher do we need for one subject above another? Of course, the 1,000 or the 500 recruited cannot be enough. But it will have done us more good if there was proper needs assessment before recruitment, so that we will not have more teachers in one field at the expense of other subjects, which is not good enough for the educational upbringing of the citizens or the young ones of the state.
All right, we'll see how that goes and what happens going forward with that. And we'll continue to monitor this development, especially this demolition of that memorial site. Outrage Ologun, as my guest, is the chairman Ondo Redemption Front. I'd like to thank you again so much for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, well, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, that's Homo Politicus today. Many thanks. Stop by the comment section. Let me know what you make of the conversation and indeed the memory of this over 40 persons who lost their lives 3 years ago in a war. Ondo State, Southwest Nigeria. Yes, that is called the Owo Massacre, and it's one that is quite significant in the history of the people of Owo. And indeed, the former governor, Rotimi Akeredolu. That, again, is the show today. Kingsley Bassey is my name. Until next time on Homo Politicus, make sure you're safe and continue to watch Enterprise Television. Bye for now.